G'day everyone, thought I'd give you an update basically on the 8K Sony sensors and a couple of other bits of news as well. I found it really interesting that a lot of people were actually saying that 8K was never going to happen, you know, who would ever watch 8K, things like that, and I can tell you it's going to happen. Yesterday I noticed that this was just shown on, I think this is News, the Japanese Times, and it's actually saying down here that other TV stations, this is NHK and other TV stations, began broadcasting 4K, 8K ultra high definition programs. So they actually started to do that on Saturday. And obviously with the Olympics coming up in 2020, it's going to be a lot more viewable. I mean, I think they're going to say they're going to have a lot of 8K broadcasting during the Olympics and things like that. So it is only a matter of time before that actually happens. And I found it interesting that most people were saying on that previous video for the 8K Sony sensors that, oh, it's never going to happen, you know, no one's ever going to watch it. Well, I don't think that's true. I actually think it is going to actually happen. I'm not saying that the Sony sensors are going to give you 8K internal in the cameras that we've got. I just don't know if that's going to be possible, but there's no reason why they can't give us 8K external. Now remember, just because they give you 8K doesn't mean you have to use it. It's like having a camera now that's 4K capable, but you might never use it. You might only ever record in 1080p, but you have that ability to do that, and that might be what they give us with the A7S III. You might have the ability to record 8K, but you may never use it. You might only record 4K, and I don't think that's an issue at all. At least you have the option if you can, and you've got the storage requirements to actually do that. So that's one interesting thing. But I did notice that the other thing was on Sony Alpha that they put more information about this new 8K sensor that came out. And the main thing that I wanted to talk to you about was that it's actually got a native ISO of 64. This is the first time I've seen a Sony sensor that has 64 ISO. I'm not sure if any of the A-series cameras do, but this was the only one I can remember that does it. I did have Nikon cameras that gave that ability, and the benefit of having that is it does give you much more flexibility during daylight to be able to shoot lower ISO, and so anything like that is much better. So it looks like it's going to be a terrific sensor from that regard. Now there also is a 36 megapixel sensor. The one they're talking about here is a 60 megapixel sensor, but they're saying down here that they believe they're keeping rumours about this 36 megapixel 8K sensor that will be used in the A7S III. They're saying there's no guarantee, but the interesting thing about this is that what they're saying is that that sensor, the 8K sensor, is open to anyone. And that's not usually like Sony to give their best sensors away. If you look at the A9, that sensor has been strictly given to the A9. No other camera manufacturer has been given that. So is there going to be another variation of these sensors that is just used in something like the A7S III? And that's probably what I think will happen. I don't believe Sony would release a sensor that is in their flagship video camera, the A7S III. I'm talking about mirrorless, you know, the smaller cameras, and give that sensor to everyone else to use, and then everyone's getting the same results. So that's going to be an interesting thing as well. A couple of other things just about that is that they're saying that one's 60 megapixels. It does go up to 16-bit. If you're talking about your still images, you've got 9 frames per second, and that's a 14-bit ADC in that one as well. And I'm not sure what that means because it also says 12-bit. That might be if you're using the silent mode. I think that could be probably what it's about. So it does look like things are actually changing. I do believe this is going to happen. I'm not quite certain how soon it will happen, but I definitely think 8K is going to be an option that Sony are going to give us, and they haven't been tending to hold much back, so I think that's probably what's going to happen. We're going to get it, and it's going to give us the option of recording to an external recorder if you can. Remember, not everyone's going to shoot 8K for an hour. You might only need it for a few seconds, and even then, if we did get that, I may use that occasionally as well, so it'd be a really interesting thing. The last news story is that Photokina has actually been cancelled for next year. So I'm not sure why that's happened, but it's actually been postponed until 2020, and they're moving it from September to May in 2020. So that's a bit of interesting news. Not quite certain why that's happened, but it has. So I'm not sure how that's going to affect camera announcements and things like that for the following year. So a couple of really interesting stories. I just wanted to share a real quick one with you guys. Let me know what you think about this in the comment down below, and I'll see you all soon, guys, for the next video. Bye for now.